Welcome back to another episode of Insights with Experts, where we aim to encourage and foster discussion, learning, and creating an informed global community. To view this and other interviews in detail, head over to theseer.org, linked in the description. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel for constant updates. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Insights with Experts. Today, we are honored to join with us. Scott, how are you today?
Great, Jonathan. Thank you for having me here.
A bit of background, I guess we'll jump straight into your background. So my understanding is you started in the US Army, you did a couple of tours with them, and then you eventually transitioned to consultancy. So the first question is maybe jump into a bit more depth into your background.
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in a very small town in Central California. Anytime I say I'm from California, everybody thinks Hollywood. But of course, California is a little bit bigger than that. I grew up on a small farming community, and I just felt like I needed to experience the world a bit more. So my way out of there after high school was joining the military. I was not much of the student, never really had a desire to go to university, which was kind of funny because as soon as I joined the military, I was thrust into a technical program, which could account for about 4 years university electrical engineering in 8 months. So whether I liked it or not, I had to get that education. So I joined the military right at 17. I needed my parents to actually sign for me to go in because you need to be 18 legally to sign your life away, as they say. And my first year, I was sent to Panama. We had an operation there, and this was back in, oh man, you guys are gonna laugh, but 1988, 89. And we had an operation there to take out General Noriega at the time. And that was the first time in my life being shot at. So it totally changed my whole perspective on the way I see life and death and how quickly it could be taken away from us at any time. So with that experience that night, in just a brief moment, I was able to just look at everything and say, you know, if I make it out of this, I'm going to do all that I can in this life, see as much as I can of the world and experience it.
So you visited a lot of countries in your time. So do you have one particular place that you found very interesting or enjoyable? Why so? And maybe a little bit of insights about your travels.
Wow, you know, that's a good question because there's so many of them and it's really hard to pinpoint one. I would give a handful. I would say Indonesia for one is one of my absolute favorites because it's just endless places to explore. There's always something new to see because there's so many islands. I would also say Tanzania in Africa, in East Africa there, because of the Serengeti, seeing the safaris, and that's just was magic to me. And yeah, and where I'm at now in Colombia. Colombia is an amazing country. It gets a very bad rap, of course, from its history. But if people were to be able to put aside their stereotypes and explore it for themselves, they know exactly what I mean.
So just following up on that, I think it's interesting to ask you what are some things that you learned from your experiences traveling so much, and sort of how do you um, adapt very quickly to new cultures and sort of new people?
Yeah, you said the magic word, adapt. And that's what you absolutely need in my line of work when you're traveling all over the different countries, because every country has a different culture and one size doesn't fit all in business. So like when I got into consulting, I was used to one way, but luckily I knew how to adapt. So I just needed to be in country for like about a week, get acclimated to how things are being done, the attitudes of people. But yeah, it's really an observation in the first week that you get to a country, and just immerse yourself into the culture, not just at work but outside of work as well. And it was very rewarding to me because I feel now that I can be dropped in any part of the world and be able to do my work successfully. And yeah, this it's a fun part of the job.
Just kind of moving back into your past in the US Army. So, are there any transferable skills that you found from that experience into what you're doing now, or are those things sort of separate to you?
No, definitely. Confidence was the biggest lesson that I got out of the military. When one lesson that I'll never forget is I told you I joined when I was 17, and this was before I went on any missions or anything. My first duty station was a rapid deployment base where we could be anywhere in the world in 24 hours. And normally, when you arrive to a new base, it's kind of like business. You just go through paperwork and you report to your unit and you just do your job. But at this base, you have to go through a lot of extra training because you're supporting infantry, rangers, special forces, whoever's going out there, we had to support them. And in the military, it's kind of like next man or woman up. If somebody goes down, you just can't think about it. You have to step in and continue. So we had a lot of additional training in that aspect. And one of the trainings was we had to build a rope bridge across a river, and they split us up in different groups. But the entire group was mixed between, like myself. I didn't even have any rank yet. I wasn't. I was a nobody, and at the same time, we had sergeant majors, we had colonels, we had very high uh, experienced soldiers in the same group. And what they did is they split us up into like five different groups. They first showed us how to build the rope bridge across the river. And then they split us up like in five different groups with the mixed ranks. And in my group, I was the lowest ranking. And I had a colonel. I remember I had a sergeant major in my group. And the instruction was, okay, the lowest ranking member is now in charge of the group and going to instruct everybody to construct this rope bridge across and just do what they taught us to do. And it was just like, oh my God, I got to tell these guys, you know. But the lesson that they gave me, I mean, they looked at me and they were like, hey, relax. You know what you have to do. We're at your orders. And through that exercise, that just gave me so much confidence in my life after the military, even that I can handle anything. And it doesn't matter because yeah, this person in the civilian world might be a director or CEO, CTO, whatever, but they're still a person. It's just a title that they have. So if you can relate that in the professional world, that hey, there's just a person, and don't be afraid of them. Respect their title, but don't be afraid and just do your job. So that was probably the biggest lesson that I carried over from the military into civilian life.
What do you think about mandatory military service? One, and a follow-up question is, based on your experience, would you recommend people enlist? And also, I guess, as a third follow-up question, would you do it again if you had the choice?
Sure. Okay. First question. I'm biased, of course, and plus with my age and the way I see things these days and how everything is happening in different generations, basically, especially with the instant gratification age that we're in now, where we can have everything at the push of a button. And I personally, my personal view, I don't think it's a bad idea for mandatory military experience. I know it's definitely not for everybody, for sure, but I think it is I'm gonna say kind of an honor and a duty to serve. So yeah, I'm for it, even if it's 3 months. I think it's an experience that would be beneficial for everyone to have, and a different kind of respect for their country. Um, let's see, the second question. I What was the second question? I know that there's
Would you recommend people to enlist? And then third is, would you do it again if you would
Yeah,
back?
second question. I would only, I mean, if someone had the interest, I would give them all the pros and cons. I mean, I would definitely not tell them, yeah, you should. No, it's everybody's individual decision. And number three, yeah, I would do it again, definitely. All the experiences, good and bad, it helped shape me to who I am now today.
Students at the moment, not only due to the sort of situation of the world, but just in general, are experiencing sort of record levels of depression and mental health issues. And as an expert, what what do you think is the main reason for this, and how can we sort of, on an individual level, sort of stop ourselves or help ourselves to not um, fall into a trap with it?
I think there's two things actually that puts us in this trap. One is the lack of balance that we have, and the lack of understanding of that balance. And when I mean balance, I mean physical and mental health. It's hard for us in society to recognize mental health. Anytime someone says mental health, someone might think, oh, they're going crazy, or they're not all there, and people are just afraid to talk about it. I was here in Colombia, and I was juggling many projects. I was a little ill at the time. My energy level was down, but I attributed that to age, thinking I'm getting old, but that wasn't really what it was, because actually next week it would be 4 years. I actually passed out. I died, clinically died. And luckily, my girlfriend at the time and her brother were able to revive me. And what the cause was burnout. And when I fell to that depression is when I finally realized, okay, I need help. I went to India. I did a 10-day Vipassana meditation where you totally disconnect from the world. You give away your phone, your laptop, everything, and you just meditate for 7 to 8 hours a day. And they teach you this meditation. And through that meditation, is when I learned the valuable lesson that we hear a lot of is mind over matter. This is the same thing with depression, with mental health. If I give all of my attention to the things that are making me depressed, then I'm never going to come out of it. Instead, I can recognize it, acknowledge it, and let it go.
I guess, are you able to give us a sneak peek and a few tips from your coaching to students who are perhaps burned out by the online lessons, the lack of human interaction, uh, them worrying about transition to university in COVID times and stuff like that? Any tips that you can point out to them?
Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. To learn more about Orakui as well as more information about our upcoming episodes, don't forget to follow our socials for constant updates and education content. Links are always in the description.
My belief is time management is the foundation to our mental well-being, because if we can't have our time organized, then that just leads to stress. If you're going to sleep at night thinking, oh, what do I got to do tomorrow, and no 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 no, right, and you don't have that organized, you're not going to get a good night's rest. You're going to be thinking about that. Even if you're sleeping, you're going to wake up totally exhausted, and still not knowing what you're going to be doing, except I have this class, I have that. So what I suggest is first thing, I do a little exercise with my clients where we take a look at our time for 1 week, 24 hours in a day. We just log our time, what we do. And after a week, you look at the time and you can see patterns. You can see that, oh man, I spent 10 hours this week on Facebook. What the hell? The next thing is start making a schedule. You can do this daily, you can do it weekly. At the end of that day, take a look at what you wrote down. What were you able to accomplish? Even if you weren't able to accomplish those, I'm sure you still have some kind of progress.
How do you sort of find purpose in your life, not within only work, but in certain things like hanging out with friends or with family, or just taking time for yourself? Because I think it's very difficult for some people to stop working and just give yourself some time off. As easy as it is to say that, it can be difficult to do that. So what is your
sort of advice on that?
Start with the time management, because when you have your time managed, then you have more focus. And that's when we move into the life organization segment. That's where we have to take a look at all the different things going on in your life, all the things that are going on now, and all the things that you want to happen in the future. We have to, what I call a mind storm, take this brain dump and take everything that we've got up here and put it down on paper. And what that is it's like looking at your life, but as a puzzle. And the hard part is the prioritization. Yeah. So many people say, oh, but I want to do, that's important and that's important. That's equally important. No, it can't be. And this is the first time that you have in your life probably to be honest with yourself on what is really important in your life. Okay, when you get your time management, now you're able to disconnect in a way, to focus more on your life. Yeah, because we only get one. We got to make the most of it, and let's try to do everything that's important to us now and what we want to plan. So after we work on life, then I teach self, which is the self module is basically teaching people how to disconnect from society's definition of being selfish. Because the only way you can really get in touch with yourself is to be selfish.
So the final question we ask everyone that comes onto the podcast is, if you have one piece of advice to the youth listening, what would your one piece of advice be?
That would be to find yourself. Take the time to find yourself, because we go through our lives, most of our lives, living to others' expectations, whether that's society, family, peers, etc. I went through that same experience, and not until I was finally true to myself, understanding what do I want out of my life and listening to finding my intuition, did I finally find true happiness and focus on what I want to do in my life, rather than following everybody else's advice and everybody else's expectations.
Thanks for listening in. This podcast has been brought to you by Desare, a platform designed to bridge the gap between the youth and professionals. You can read more about us at desare.org. And you can also check out the section titled Insights with Experts, where you can submit your questions that you might have for future experts and industries that you would like to learn more about. And you can also refer in any experts that you might know yourself.